Miguel, Govea.
Thank you, Cava, for being the inspiration. It was fascinating to listen to the different processes, and I know, I feel like we are all different as people, you know, the way we sense things, the way we process things, and as musicians, that goes the same way. This particular project, I particularly have never been, thought of myself or had aspirations to be a composer. I really liked learning other music. I learned melodies, you know, that's been since I was a little kid, that's what I was doing. And eventually we learned a little more about harmony. But this process, it was interesting to listen to, you know, the students talk about how some students approach, you know, this composing process by their love of their instrument and their proficiency on their instrument. But I found that a lot of our students are learning. They're novices, or they're in the process of getting better, as we all are, right, as musicians. That didn't limit them from talking about, we spent time talking about what's important to you, what is something that makes you feel. That in itself is a challenge, because a lot of us, especially growing up in my generation, you're not supposed to feel anything. You're supposed to just go through your day and go through your life and make it, you know, try to get through it without, you know, letting those feelings stop you, right? Because there's so many things that are negative that, you know, that stop you. And so you're supposed to, like my mom who grew up in the Depression, or her parents who grew up in the Mexican Revolution, you have to survive before you feel, but it's so important for us as human beings to do that. We're trying to learn that. And as Cava said, kids haven't lost, or, you know, if they're lucky, great parents, if they have, you know, if they're lucky to have good parents and good community support, they can still retain that and feel things. This was a beautiful project. Even though some of my students, they had different levels, we started with that process of what is something that you feel something about. It doesn't matter. Most of my students in the Mission District Young Musicians Program had ideas about the world in general, injustice, you know, environmental catastrophe, you know, things that weighed heavy on them, and they really felt that. Every single one of them came up with a theme, which I recorded them eventually after a couple of weeks talking about it. I just said, okay, whatever, just bring your horn or bring your, you know, and play me something, what we just talked about, play me anything. I tried to be as faithful as possible to what they did. I recorded it, and then I went to my laboratory with a computer and, you know, GarageBand, and tried to come up with something, and then gave it and submitted to them. And I think they liked it. Anyway, these are some of the examples. Every one of my students, I was in charge of the brass winds with Lisa. Don't forget to mention. So anyway, every one of them had, we had a project, a piece for every one of them. And I wish we could play all of them, but we're going to get come on up. We're going to get to the one. And we're going to be playing them with the tracks that we practiced with, because we didn't have any harmonic support other than what I had done on the project. So that's how we're doing it. So we're going to start off. Yes, we're going to start off with Angel Rosales.
My name is Angel Rosales. The piece we're going to play is titled Angel's Journey. It is to represent immigration from all over the world. It's supposed to, I guess, show the struggles traveling from one place to another. Like, how it's not always easy, but when you get to the place where you achieve to, you know, get to.
It's a difficult journey coming from someplace else. And under stress. And is it something that you read about in a book, or is it something that you know people?
I know people, yeah. My parents, you know, it's my family, yeah.
Okay. So this is Angel's Journey. Yeah, no, it's on. But I guess my horn. Okay. That's okay, it's in the other room, but you guys will do it, okay?
Yeah.
You take it straight, and then you're gonna take it over. Whoops, that's not it, sorry. Give me a second. Yeah, give me a second. Well, thank you. Is it on? No, it should be on. Oh, it ran out of juice, that's why. That's what we were afraid of. Oh, really? Okay, it's good. We're gonna do a second. Okay, good. Was there something, a freedom in any particular context that?
Yeah, I guess like in our school we had a lot of sexual harassment, and I guess that's something that
You were imagining some, being free of that,
yeah.
being free of that. Okay. Did everybody hear it? I don't know. Okay. Okay, good. All right, so here's Susan's theme, freedom.
piece that I composed is called Cool Walk. And it's essentially about when you're, going on a walk through a pleasant neighborhood, like a peaceful neighborhood that you like to be in, right? It's a nice experience. And then there was a kind of companion piece to this that was called Traffic Jam. It was like, it was about a traffic jam, like in contrast to this. And all this is based on, me. I walk to school every day. I walk a lot. It's kind of a long walk. So, yeah, that's what created this piece.
Great. Collaborate with them, but with Mai and Lola are the clarinet students.
Yeah, like Miguel said, Mai also helped with this piece, but Mai's not here tonight. But really what this is about is, the piece is titled A Place for Everyone. And what that means to me is, like, in a lot of spaces, not everyone is given a voice. And yeah, that's what inspired this piece.
Okay. March 20th. Oh, great. Oh, great.
artist from our rhythm section, Gian. So during this past year, we came back to in-person learning in September, but if you'll remember, there's been periods, stages of in-person learning, and our winds have actually been rehearsing outside and separated from the rhythm section for most of the year. They've only recently come back together. They were in a parking lot, and the rest of the folks were at Mission Cultural Center, so you did a phenomenal job. Congratulations, all of you. Angel. Lisa, sorry I forgot before, Lisa's a valued member of the team, really beautiful. And then, I know, Sua, and Lola, Miguel, and Gian, thank you. I want to invite a couple of the members of the Mission Cultural Center team, Gian and Chantel, to come up and just speak a little bit about some of the processes that were going on there with the vocal students, and then also Gian did a collaboration with Cava. Gian, you want to start?
Yeah, so my name is Gian Velasquez. I'm a Latin percussionist. I primarily focus on Latin music, all throughout Latin America, percussion specifically. And for this project, one of my main goals was to produce Latin jazz fusion tune. And really, what I really based my inspiration on was the themes of, number one, diaspora and the power of kind of the fact that all this music that we play, obviously the Afro-based African rhythms of the drum, as well as American jazz, right? This all comes from Africa, right? The slaves and the history, the rich history that there is in this country of the enslaved people that produce such a beautiful music in spite of all the trauma that they went through. So it's really beautiful to see how it came here, and we can kind of fuse these two different things, which are seemingly two different things, but they're just long lost cousins. So that was one of the main points of my music. Second of all was discussing a more local thing that's very important for me, which is gentrification. As we all know, there's a lot of, that's been a really big problem in the city since before I was born probably. And it's really important for me because living in my city is a blessing, first of all, and places like this wouldn't be produced if it wasn't for the, the great people that live in the city. So this, I did a project with Cava, which was it was just piano and percussion, and the beat that I chose to play was a Afro-Cuban beat called rumba guaguancó, and it's a very popular rhythm that they play in Cuba, and it's very focused on the drums, it's very melodic, and it's a very beautiful pattern. And we had Cava play the Fender Rhodes on it because I like the jazz, the Cuba, rumba jazz, if you will. And I really based my inspirations off of bands like Irakere, musicians such as Giovanni Hidalgo, and etc. These Latin jazz monsters that I admire. So this was a really good chance for me. And working with Cava, it's been a blessing. I mean, Cava is such a great teacher, and she's so, coming from a jazz background, was perfect. I feel like we clicked instantly, and I sent her a video, and she sent it back. She said, "Nah, it's too crazy. Let me start off with the piano first, because there were so many moving parts." And I'm not gonna lie, aligning myself to the video that she sent was pretty hard because she was kind of moving freely, like she said. There was no really constraints. There's no real box. You kind of have to join in whenever you can. So that was definitely an adventure for me. But the end product was beautiful, and I appreciate this, and I hope that we can do this again. So big ups to you, Cava, and I appreciate you.
Thanks, Gian. Hi, everyone. I'm Chantel Hernandez, and I'm the program coordinator for CMC. And I spent a lot of time, or not a lot, every Saturday, at NCCLA with NDYMP. And this project was, it was super special to me. And what was great is that I got to spend time with our vocalists, and they're not here today. And neither is Nena Aldaz. She was our vocal teacher. And just the process, the whole process of the project was beautiful. Miguel talked about just conversations that were had about, the things that the students are experiencing and turning that into music. That's beautiful in itself. But something special about the vocalists is that they, I'm also a vocalist, so it's a vulnerable thing to do, to one, share your voice, and two, when you're composing this music, you're using your own words and expressing yourself, and that can be a scary thing to do. So watching the students go through this process of allowing themselves to be vulnerable and do that with each other and then create music from that was really beautiful. One of my favorite songs that they did was Es Mio, and the conversation that led to that was about a lot of the students were expressing that they had felt like left out in school, or that they felt different because they were coming from Spanish-speaking homes. But then that conversation turned into, well, what is your cultural identity? What do you identify with in your culture? What makes you proud? What makes you happy? What makes it special to you? And from that conversation came Es Mio. And one of the lines from the song is, Es parte de mí y me hace sentir feliz. And, you know, it seems kind of simple, but coming from that conversation and then saying it in a song, it's really powerful. So, I mean, the project itself was beautiful. I was so happy to be a part of it. And, you know, shout out to the vocalists.
Thank you so much, Chantal and Gian, for sharing those stories. I mean, you can see how the compositions came from so many different perspectives and student experiences and student voices and musical styles. So, with that, I want to invite our final faculty member to come up and speak, because the jazz, you've had your own process. You had it during COVID, you did it again with this Cava project. I want to invite Scott Foster to come and speak a little bit about what happened in the jazz group.
Thank you all. It's really been such a treat and pleasure to be part of this project for a wide variety of reasons. As I look over here, probably right at the top of the list is working with inspired musical students. It's really what makes all of this work and why we do it. But I wanted to touch on a few things that seemed, you know, as I was experiencing all this great music that's come out of this project and feeling what it felt like to be in the room and experience that. I just wanted to touch on something that seems really intuitive, but isn't necessarily that intuitive in music education all the time. You'll notice we have a whiteboard over here with all kinds of lines on it and different things, and these guys will tell you I spend a lot of time over there putting dots on it and squiggly lines and telling them rules about which things go together and what doesn't go together. And that can be so intimidating for a young or an aspiring composer to think, oh, there's all these rules, I gotta do it the right way. But this project all came from emotional content, and that's why we get into music, is how do we share our feelings with others and try to have a communal experience around them. And that was at the root of this whole project, and that felt really, really good. And it felt good tonight to be able to hear some of that expression come from the students. And also to honor this place, because this is part of a 100-year celebration. And for me, it was a motivator to try to motivate my students that, hey, we're part of a real big historical moment here at a very special place, and we should do our best to try to contribute to that. And everybody in my class did that. I came a little late. Did we hear you guys already?